All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about what many believe is the next giant leap in AI. We're moving way beyond just chatbots. We're talking about agentic AI. These are systems designed not just to talk, but to actually do things. So let's get right into it. So, let's say you give an AI a prompt like this. It's a pretty complex request, right? You've got flights, hotels, things to do, and a really strict budget. Now, a typical chatbot you'd use today, it would probably just spit out a bunch of links to Kayak, Expedia, maybe a few blog posts. Basically, it just puts all the work right back on your plate. But this is where an AI agent completely changes the game. It doesn't just give you information, it takes action. It goes out, it compares flights, it builds an itinerary it thinks you'll like, it checks to see what's actually available in real time, and it can even book everything for you. All it needs is your final yes. It's not giving you a to-do list, it's doing the list for you. Okay, so that perfectly sets up our first big question. What exactly is agentic AI? Let's break down how these systems make the jump from being passive responders to, well, proactive doers. Here's the core definition, right? Agentic AI are systems that can set their own little sub-goals, create complex, multi-step plans, and then use tools like a web browser or an API to actually get the job done. And the most important part, minimal supervision. You should think of it less like a calculator and a whole lot more like a personal assistant you can trust. And this is where you can really see the difference from the generative AI we're all used to. I mean, generative AI is fantastic, right? It follows instructions to create text or images, but agentic AI, it takes a big goal, breaks it down into smaller pieces, actually executes those tasks. And, this is the critical part, it learns from the results to figure out its next move. And listen, this isn't just some niche idea floating around in a research lab. This is a massive shift. Analysts are projecting that the market for AI agents could be worth something like $52 billion by 2030. When you see a number like that, it tells you one thing. Major companies are betting big on AI that can actually do work, not just talk about it. So the big question is, how do they actually do it? What's going on under the hood? In this next section, we're going to take a look inside the agent's mind, so to speak, and explore the 4 core components that give these systems their amazing autonomy. First up, you've got planning. This is the strategic brain of the operation. Just like a really good project manager, the agent sees the final goal, plan my trip, and instantly starts breaking it down into a logical to-do list. First, find flights. Then, find hotels that match the flight dates. Then, check reviews, and so on. Second is memory. This is absolutely crucial. An agent has to remember what it's already done and what it's learned along the way. It needs short-term memory to keep track of, okay, I just searched for flights, and long-term memory to recall things like, this user always prefers a window seat. Without memory, every single step would be like starting from scratch. Third, we have tool use. This is how the AI's brain actually connects to the real world. It uses tools we're all familiar with, like a web search to find the best restaurants, or it uses things called APIs, which are kind of like digital messengers for apps, to go out and actually book that flight. You can think of tools as its hands and eyes. And finally, number 4 is reflection. Now, this might be its most powerful component. This is the agent's ability to step back, look at its own work, and ask, did that last step work? Could I have done that better? And then actually change its plan based on the answer. This ability to self-critique is what allows it to learn from mistakes and get smarter over time. Okay, so we've got the 4 core ingredients: planning, memory, tools, and reflection. But how do you actually put them all together into a working system? Now we're going to look at the architectural blueprints that bring all these parts together to create a real, functioning agent. Which leads us right to this big question. How do you assemble all these pieces into a coherent system that can actually reason and act on its own? Well, it turns out there are a few key models people are using. One of the most foundational blueprints is something called the React loop. It's really simple. The agent first reasons. It thinks about what it needs to do next. Then it acts. It uses a tool or gives a response. Then it observes what happened because of that action. And then it just repeats the whole loop. It's a simple but incredibly effective cycle for tackling problems one step at a time. But, what happens when a task is just too big or too complicated for a single agent? Well, it's the same thing that happens with us humans, right? You build a team. For the really complex problems, you need a more advanced structure. This brings us to what's often called the supervisor model. Think of it like this. You have one main supervisor agent that's basically the project manager. It takes the big, messy goal, breaks it down into clear subtasks, and then delegates those tasks to specialized worker agents. Maybe one agent is an expert at searching the web, another is a pro at writing code, they all work at the same time, report their findings back, and the supervisor pulls it all together to finish the job. This is how you really start to scale. All right, so this stuff isn't just sitting in a lab somewhere. Let's look at where Agentic AI is already making waves in the real world, in fields all the way from software development to clinical trials. In software development, this is an absolute game changer. Imagine an agent where you can just say, hey, fix this bug, and it goes off, writes the code, tests it to make sure it works, and even handles submitting it. These complex IT workflows that used to take teams of people days to do are now being automated. And in healthcare, wow, the potential here is just massive. Agents can sift through patient data to help doctors make diagnoses, they can help create personalized treatment plans, and they can automate the really tedious work of analyzing medical images. They're also being used to dramatically speed up the research process for discovering new drugs. And then there's finance, where agents are being used for some really critical stuff. They're performing advanced fraud detection in real time by spotting weird patterns in transactions. They can automate risk profiles for new customers and even manage super complex jobs like treasury operations. Okay, but let's be real. With all of this incredible power comes some pretty big responsibilities. We can't talk about Agentic AI without looking at the major challenges we have to solve to make sure we deploy it safely and effectively. It's all about balancing that power with a little bit of prudence. And the challenges really come from all sides. On the technical side, you have to ask, how do we make these things truly reliable so they don't mess up? Ethically, who's responsible when an autonomous agent does make a mistake? From a security angle, how do you stop bad actors from using them for malicious stuff? Heck, just getting a team of agents to work together smoothly is a huge puzzle. When you boil it all down, it comes back to one central challenge. As these systems get more and more autonomous, how do we absolutely guarantee they stay reliable, safe, and, most importantly, aligned with our human values? Answering that question is probably the most important work happening in this entire field right now. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to chew on. As these agents keep evolving from being simple tools into these sophisticated autonomous entities, what is our relationship with them going to look like? Are they going to be our partners, our super capable assistants, or are they going to start replacing roles we thought only humans could ever do? The answer, well, it's being written as we speak. Something to think about.